I'm Lisa Stone, and you're listening to Parenting Aces. Well, as I mentioned last week, we are really struggling with what content to share on the podcast during this crazy time of COVID-19. And luckily for all of us, Todd Widom was willing and able to have a conversation with me that I'm going to share with y'all this week. And we're talking about resources that we can all use while we're stuck at home to help our kids continue on their path toward reaching their tennis goals. So Todd is sharing some really helpful information. Together, he and I are creating space for those of you interested in finding reliable online resources easily to find that information. And it's going to be housed on ParentingAces.com. So I hope you'll take a look. Meanwhile, please, please, please stay safe. I hope that everyone near and dear to you is staying healthy during this crazy time and that you're able to maintain some level of sanity as we're all stuck inside together. But for now, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Todd Widom.
I'm Chris Lewis of Bryma Lewis Tennis, and you're listening to Parenting Aces.
So, Todd Widom, there's so much craziness going on in the world at large, in the tennis world, and on a smaller level. And I thought it would be good for us to chat this week about some things that you're hearing and seeing from your players, what you're hearing from other coaches, and the resources that you and I both are working on to help tennis families kind of make some sense out of all this craziness. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really difficult time for many families and people worldwide. So, everybody's going to try their best to get through this period. And hopefully some of the things that I'm going to put out with you and throughout social media will help ease, some of the pain, for some of the families and individuals.
I've talked with Dewey on our Tennis Takeaways live stream each week. We've talked for the last couple weeks about how this is impacting the players, and we've touched a little bit on how it's impacting coaches. But the reality is, for tennis coaches like yourself, if you don't have players there for you to coach, then your income stream has been lopped off. And this is a real concern. And thankfully, some of the governing bodies of our sport have formed a task force, which I posted about last week, to address some of these concerns and needs of not only the professional players, but also the tennis coaches, the tournament organizers, the manufacturing industry, college tennis. I mean, they're all coming together to come up with some ideas to hopefully ease the financial burden on everyone. Can you share with us, just from your own personal experience, how this is all impacting you as a coach and as a business owner? I think it's important for the audience to hear about this stuff.
Sure. It's been really tough. For the first, I would say maybe 6 years, I did all the work myself. So if I had some more work, I just worked more hours. And, I was a little bit stubborn that I wanted to, like I said, take care of the kids myself in my little system. And then obviously, many of the viewers know that when Ronnie came along to live with me, I brought in Pierre to, my longtime coach who trained me for 20 years. I brought him in. And then recently in January, I brought in another fellow, this gentleman, Daniel Yu, that I trained many years with. He's a couple of years younger than me, and he was a very accomplished player. He won super nationals here in the United States and played on the tour for a bunch of years. And so I brought him in full time. And so during these months of March and April, especially with some of your viewers, Lisa, as well as, other kids throughout the country and even some international students, we were at full capacity at about, I would say, 13 to 15 kids. And that's spread amongst us three, as well as a private hitting partner or two. that trained under me as well. So that kind of went away and dissolved. And so right now we have about 3 kids spread amongst 3 main top level coaches. So that's been tough. The families are planning on coming back, because what the viewers must know is that most of the clients that I have are not from South Florida. They may have come here and rented places or bought places here to train in my system. So many, most of them drove back to where they live, throughout the United States. And then as well as we had a nice group of visitors that were going to come in and spend a week or multiple weeks with my group as well. So obviously all of that is on hold. And so it's been very tough. I'm trying to figure out how, I'm going to spread the money, amongst, obviously only 3 kids and putting in the work. And I could train 3 kids myself. I did that
right.
for a whole bunch of years, but, I want to make sure that I consider them, my partners, but my assistants, Pierre and Daniel, I want to make sure that they're okay during this time, making sure they're able to pay their bills, and we get through this tough period, and then obviously move on and keep going at it.
Right. And I mean, what the listeners may not know about you, Todd, is you're married, you have 2 kids, young kids. So, I mean, this is not just you trying to manage your own finances and well-being, but you're responsible for a family. You're responsible for your 2 coaches that work with you and the hitting partners that you bring in. And, there's overhead, obviously connected with that, and buying equipment and, making sure that you have everything you need on hand. So I suspect that your situation is very common among tennis coaches around the world right now, and it's a scary time. And so, not only are you trying to manage yourself, but, in your own mental health and your own anxiety issues over providing, but you're trying to help the 3 kids that are still with you do all those things, as well as the coaches that are working for you. It's a lot on your plate right now.
Well, it is, but I try to take the positive, and like I said in the beginning of the show, Daniel and I, as well as Pierre, we're going to start putting together many clips of interviews and maybe tips and things that I always wanted to really put out there, but now we really have the time to be able to do it. So I think it'll be good, and obviously a lot of people are at home and trying their best to stay busy and everything. Maybe the kids are doing their schoolwork online, and so I think it'll be great, maybe a little refreshing for people to see, kind of how we train the players that are with us, and what we feel is necessary for them to achieve their goals. And then even for people to understand, more about maybe Daniel or Pierre, because, I think that's important as well. People that I really trust and respect, and I've spent many, many years, training with, and so it's been very exciting for me to have these gentlemen with me in a system that I started in 2010 by myself with 1 student. So,
right.
So, I think it could be a great time for that as well.
Well, so let's talk about these resources and, where they're going to be. By the time this airs, there will be a dedicated area on ParentingAces.com for at-home resources for training and other areas of tennis development and basic human development while we're all stuck at home during COVID-19. But specifically, what resources are you hoping to provide, and what are some of the things that families can be doing to make sure that their kids' goals are still attainable once we're on the other side of this crazy time?
So I think obviously the internet, it can be a great tool. So one of the things that Pierre and I and Daniel communicate to our students is that you should always have your favorite player. right? Or maybe favorite couple of players. And you should really try to model your game after how they play. So the kids should be, in our opinion, they should be studying how these players are moving, how they're constructing points, maybe their techniques. In fact, we have students that we train now that some of their homework is for them to look at a specific technique of their favorite player before they come to the workout the next day, and they need to study that. And so we ask them, every single day whether they've done their homework, and so that's one thing. Another thing that the kids can do is obviously as much fitness as they can, in their house, or maybe they can go outside depending on the weather, and try to stay as fit as they can, during this time. If they can't be, hitting tennis balls. But, in terms of that, you try to do the best you can, with what you have, and stay positive, and hopefully this will, pass over sooner than later.
Well, you talked about the fact that you've, for a while now, have been wanting to produce these videos, but you haven't had the time. And so I think that's, if we can look for some positives here, as you're trying to do, one of the positives of all being stuck at home is we have more time than we know what to do with right now. So given that, I've heard over the years families talk about, well, there's not enough hours in the day for my kid to do their schoolwork, do their training, do the at-home work that the coaches are asking from them and the teachers are asking from them, doing the off-court fitness stuff, doing the mental training. There's just not enough hours. Well, guess what? Now there are plenty of hours to work in all of these things, but the challenge is to stay organized about it, one, and two, to make sure that, as you said, if we go to the internet as a resource, that we're using reliable information, right? I mean, that's always been the challenge with the internet.
Yeah, you're right. I can tell people that when I see clips of tennis videos, all throughout, maybe on social media or YouTube, those types of things, I can tell you that, many times I don't agree with what's being said, but also I don't really understand what's trying to be taught in those videos. So I can tell you that if I don't understand it and I can't comprehend it, I really don't know how a junior tennis player or an adult would understand that as well. Mm-hmm. So, in the way that I was brought up, training with Pierre and his partner, who, for the viewers that don't know, they were producing a lot of the champions, both amateur and professional, in South Florida and in the late 80s and early 90s, during that time. So they kept things very simple. It was very repetitious every single day. And that's how you went about your training, and it was done in a very disciplined environment with a lot of respect and humbleness. And so they taught you that, each and every day. So the way that I teach my students, as well as Pierre and Daniel, and obviously, many people aren't here, but some of your viewers have come to train in my system. I think they would understand that we make it very simple and very easy to understand. So that's first and foremost, that it needs to be communicated in a way that the child can really comprehend and understand it. Where I see a lot of things on the internet that I really, to tell you the truth, I can't understand what's being done here. Why certain drills. Yeah, I mean, crazy, maybe drop fed drills or jumping over this or that. And I've just never seen this stuff ever. And I can't figure out, and I may watch it a couple of times, I can't figure out what is trying to be worked on, what's, for a particular student. Mm-hmm. So it may look really cool, or it may look very interesting, but there may be no reason why it's being done. It could just be a nice sales pitch or show. So, that's tough. That's tough to know, what's being, the message being, being given, on technology.
Right. And I think, that's one of the things that hopefully you and I are going to be able to work on and accomplish together is pulling together reliable resources, useful resources, resources that are going to help our kids become better, and put them all into one place where people can go and click and get what they need. And so, I'm really happy that you finally have the time to do these videos. You and I have been talking about this for months, maybe over a year now, about getting this information together. But, due to your teaching schedule and your limited time resource, it just hasn't happened. And now we're going to get that. So I think that's going to be a big bonus for the people that follow you, the people that follow Parenting Aces, and, hopefully we'll be able to get that information out quickly and easily to those who are in need, as we're all stuck at home here. So, I mean, I think about all this and I've been talking about this a lot, but if this had to happen, this COVID-19 outbreak had to happen, at least it happened at a time where we have alternate resources to connect with one another. Things like podcasts and Zoom calls and FaceTime and email even, just all these different ways to stay connected with the people that are important in our lives. And so I'm really hoping that Parenting Aces and Todd Widom become two of those people that our listeners want to stay connected with and who they value.
Yeah, well, that would be great, and obviously, the content that I'm going to put out there, interviews / tips and things that we see that might not be great things that we're seeing from kids that are coming to train in our system. If anyone has really any questions or concerns or doesn't understand what we're teaching, then we'll be more than happy to explain that, and you can reach out to me at any time.
And I'll have your contact info in the show notes on ParentingAces.com. So if anybody doesn't already know how to get a hold of you, Todd, we'll have all your social media links and your email and anything else that you're willing to share. We'll put that in the show notes for everybody. So let's start talking specifics a little bit. So let's say you've got a player who reaches out to you who cannot be there in person, who does not have access to a tennis court right now. How would you tell them is the best way for them to schedule their days to make the best use of this time?
Okay, so with schoolwork, obviously, I hope the kids are doing a lot of schoolwork and they're keeping up with that, and maybe with their teachers or going online and things like that. But I think they should write down what their day is going to be so that they can be most productive. So they have to schedule obviously their schoolwork for a certain amount of time. Then maybe you take a break from that. Maybe you start working on physical fitness for a certain period. Then maybe you go back to your schoolwork. Then maybe you dedicate a certain amount of time to YouTube videos of, like I said earlier, with your favorite players, and really study, for example, study how their return to serve position. Then study where they're going to hit that return to serve. Study where their opponent is trying to serve them. Also study how they're constructing that point. Now, what most people need to understand is that the players aren't just hitting and running when they're on a court. There's a certain reason why they're hitting certain types of shots. They're hitting certain areas of the court, and they're trying to break down their opponent. So all these things can be so valuable for these junior players and even parents, for them to learn what really is going on in a very high level tennis match. So you can do that. Then you can do another session of fitness as well. I mean, there's no reason not to. to do a double session of fitness, because really, if you're going to sit around your house and just do your schoolwork and then, mess around on your technology and all that all day long, then when you come back to tennis, it's going to be pretty tough physically to pick up where you left off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have to have a plan of attack here. And I think it's, as you said, it's really important to create a daily schedule and stick to that. And of course, you can modify it as things change. But for now, it's crucial that as parents, we help our kids stay organized and stay focused, but also allow for flexibility when they need it due to just the stress of being stuck at home and not having that social contact in person with their peers. But at the same time, a total lack of organization and planning is just going to lead to anxiety and chaos. And that's exactly what we don't want to happen right now.
That's true. I mean, even before, obviously, the COVID-19 outbreak and everything, these are the discussions that we have with our students and even some of the parents, quite often. Everything from their tennis training to doing their schoolwork on time to making sure they have a schedule. So, the kids that I train, most of them are online schooled, but they may be sleeping in too late and then coming to practice when, and they could have been way more productive at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and their practice isn't starting till 9:15. So, these are discussions that we have all the time. And also making sure that they're organized in their life and staying very disciplined. So, these are really good skills to have. And the kids, if they're not doing it currently, they need to start developing these types of skills.
How do you think tennis coaching is going to change as a result of COVID-19 and what we're all going through right now?
Well, I've given it some thought, obviously, over the last bunch of days and weeks. In my system, and I'm very close with the parents and everything. They've lost a lot of money in the market, and some of them started cutting back already. Some were concerned that they may lose their jobs when maybe they were getting a bonus from their company. So that's obviously very concerning. Then there are the ones that may need to cut back on maybe tournaments or tournament traveling, or they may need to really cut back on maybe coming down into my system, and coming to check us out for the given amount of time that they would love to, come and train with, in my system with Daniel, myself, and Pierre. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the next couple months play out, and then into the summer. And so I'm curious to see how that really works, and how financially stable the families are, going through this tough time.
But it's not just the family's financial stability, right? It's the coach's financial stability as well, and finding ways to generate an income stream when you don't have people there live and in person. I mean, this is a huge challenge. So, one of the things we've done at Parenting Aces is we've done away with our memberships. We've just gone back to our old model where all the content on the site is free, because, I'm lucky to be in a situation where I wasn't relying on Parenting Aces income to pay the bills, but I am not the norm. And for most people in the industry, they need to find a way to keep that income stream coming in. So, doing things like providing virtual coaching or, I don't know. I mean, what are some of the ideas that you're coming up with or hearing from other coaches about how they're going to pay their bills over these next few weeks and months?
Right. So, like I said, in my system, I have my core group of full timers that are here. And then I have kids that may come in during certain times of the year, maybe during their school breaks or that type of stuff. Maybe kids that don't want to go online, or maybe kids and families that can't relocate here to South Florida. So so basically, what I've spoken about, and even way before this tough time, is that, and parents have brought this up to me as well, is that, can you train my child while they're at home and we can put a live feed on a court? Mm-hmm. And I've given that a lot of thought. And in fact, I'm going to start with a student, I believe, that we trained for a year and comes in and out of our system. And that student's from Australia, actually. So the father and daughter, but they're going to be setting up on a court a live feed where I can actually be in my house and train and communicate with that student while they're playing and training with say either a ball machine or a hitting partner. Mm-hmm. And so that could be a great way to do things. It also keeps a great relationship going between not only myself and the parents, but also the students, so that when they come back to my system, we're not fixing things that we thought we already fixed. And so that's a great way, in our opinion, to keep the relationship going, but also really keep helping that player develop, and when they do come back into my system, that we're not working on the same things that we previously worked on before.
Right. I mean, that's a great idea. And certainly we have the technology now to make that work. But what happens when we're done with this stay-at-home order and we're back to whatever our new business as usual looks like? Because I think we can all agree that things are going to look very different once this passes. What are you thinking in terms of long-term changes, in addition to doing the remote training that you just talked about, that are going to help you and help junior tennis to continue to grow and thrive?
Well, that's a good question. Each and every case is different. As of now, the students that I train full time that went home, their plan is to come right back when they can, mm-hmm. and we pick up where we left off. Some of them are trying to play as much tennis as they can back home, and that tennis is played with a sibling. So, they're not really obviously going outside and training and doing all those things with others. They're really just keeping it in their family and doing that.
As they should.
Right.
Yes.
Correct. I mean, even the past couple of weeks, our mothers did an incredible job of sanitizing everything on our courts. We were, they were wiping down all the benches, buckets, baskets. They were spraying all the seats. We were sanitizing our hands on every single changeover after all the drills, everything. So we were, as I said, where we were training was probably the cleanest place in South Florida. We're doing the best that we can, and hopefully we can get through this period.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, is there anything else you want to share with us, Todd? I suspect you and I are going to be talking quite a bit over the next few weeks, and certainly as you build your content and we get it online on ParentingAces.com. But for right now, I think the message is that we've got to figure out how to keep our kids organized. We've got to figure out how to keep them calm and focused and, continuing to work toward the goals that they've set for themselves. But at the same time, obviously, we have to stay safe. And that's the biggest challenge.
Absolutely. That's first and foremost. It's just, staying safe and trying to use this time wisely, because when this tough period is over, hopefully we're really raring and rocking and rolling here and going back at it. And so, let's use this time now, in a smart way, and hopefully the tough times will be over sooner than later.
Agreed. All right. So if people want to reach out to you, Todd Widom, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So I put content almost every single day, like I said, on social media, and Lisa, this, that I put content almost every single day on Facebook and Instagram. So right now you could go out and you could see me training Ronnie, who came home from LSU, and you can see what we're working on and everything. I put clips of the last couple of days of his training. We're blessed to have a couple of courts here in South Florida, in a private community, from one of the families that we train. So we're using those courts, and so you can see that, and you could see that on Facebook, under my name, Todd Widom, Todd, and the last name Widom. Or you could also look at my business page on Facebook at Todd Widom Tennis. And you could also see me on Instagram at Todd Widom _tennis. And so I post, almost daily, as well as posting a story on those social media outlets as well. And then, if people have any questions or concerns of what I'm doing, with obviously my social media or the stuff that I'm going to submit to you as well, Lisa, people can email me if they'd like at todd@twtennis.com. And really those are the best ways to get in touch with me. And hopefully your viewers will enjoy the content, and hopefully it'll be very interesting to them. And I think it will. And maybe they may be thinking, that's what my kid does, and Todd is saying, don't do this. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see the feedback and everything. And hopefully, we'll get through this tough period.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Todd. And for the listeners, we will have all of Todd's contact info, as I mentioned, on ParentingAces.com. So be sure to check that out. And in the meantime, please, everybody, stay safe, stay home, maintain your social distancing, wash your hands, and let's get through this as a community and come out on the other side stronger than ever. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in, and we will catch you next time on Parenting Aces. I'm Lisa Stone, and you've been listening to the Parenting Aces Podcast, for tennis parents by a tennis parent. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to us and write a review on iTunes. For more information on navigating the junior and college tennis journey, please visit us online at ParentingAces.com. Thanks for tuning in and sharing us with your tennis community.